Wonderful. Okay, so today we've got Pam again. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, Pam. And we will be talking about what is really behind your anxiety, your overwhelm, and your constant stress from an energy healing point of view. So thank you so much for joining us, Pam, and I'll give the floor to you.
Okay, so what is behind our anxiety, overwhelm, and stress? Basically, these are things uh, that come with our human nature. When we feel like we have to take charge of something, we are responsible for something, and we are running the show, then we, because we are limited in our capacity as human beings, we tend to take it all in, and it becomes a lot after years and years and years. And given our past traumas, which we may or may not be aware of. So, with energy healing, we tap into the divine energy that flows through us. But the flow has been blocked because of our beliefs, the rules we set for ourselves, the traumas we've experienced, and those trigger responses. We don't know why we stress out so much. For example, it's normal this thing, when you're going to do something new or going to apply for a job, we tend to be looking either at the future or making decisions for the future based on the past. We rarely live in the present. And when we do, it is definitely colored by the past experiences, where our brain is telling us, okay, when you applied for a job the last time, you didn't get it, and you missed that by a little bit, or you were not qualified enough, or you were overqualified, whatever the explanation is. It's not that we're consciously thinking of it, but because we've had that experience, we are expecting this same result, and we are fearful. So we hold on to the fear that continues, and then it's like a vicious cycle. Because we are fearful, we get anxious. Because we are anxious, then we are stressed out. So, what energy healing does is it brings us back to where those fears may have originated. What experience, I mean, it helps you recall or brings to your attention what those fears are and where they originated. How long it takes to do that depends on how old they are. Um, if you were a child and your parents, kept telling you because you were, well, not able to do certain things right away, you know, parents had come with their own trauma unless they worked through it. So what they've learned from, listening to their parents, they pass on to the other child, to you and your siblings. And it's like, oh, you can't even figure that out? You're not going to amount to anything. So when you go for the interview, that reel's playing in the back. So you stress out. But with energy healing, when you do the work, you recall, or it may come to the surface. Again, it is what you are ready to release. It is when you're ready and you say, okay, this is not right. I need to do something about this anxiety. And you go seek help, and whatever modality you choose, it'll work accordingly. But with energy healing, it goes deep. So take some work, and then you get to the root of it and you realize that you're either fearing the future because you feel that things are going to be repeated. It didn't happen in the past. You didn't get the job you wanted, so you're not going to get it now. Or, uh, you know, you're worried about the past, that this is the experience you had, and it wasn't very pleasant. So because you don't deserve it or whatever your reasoning is, that is all unique to each individual. And then that starts to surface. And once you realize what's causing that anxiety and the resulting stress and the overwhelm from everything, not working out for you, then you're able to start shedding those layers. You're able to live, you're guided to work in the present because what happened in the past you cannot change, but you can become aware of what it was. And if you're not aware, it's controlling your actions and your responses because you start reacting rather than responding. But becoming aware, then okay, this is what happened, but that's not serving me anymore right now. So I can release it. And then, with the energy work, you start to release that to break those blocks because what you're doing is you're divinely guided, you're allowing the energy flow, and as it's coming through, you're letting it, and again, I repeat that it depends on how open you are to receiving that healing. Because if you're going with the belief, yeah, I'll try it, but I know it's not going to work, um, you're already sort of, denying yourself that opportunity. But if you say, okay, let me see, and the first time, let's say we do the energy healing and you fall asleep, as I did, the first few healings, I slept through them, but they still work because your subconscious is receiving the healings. And even though I was not awake through that, I started noticing a shift in my thinking. And uh, because the energy is not dependent on your physical sort of body. It works on an energetic level, so it's still flowing through and breaking those blocks. If the blocks are very solid, it'll start chipping away at the blocks. If the blocks are new or not very solid, it can smash them. So, with that, you may experience a lag time because what works in the energetic field is instant sometimes, is very quick, but it takes a while for the physical body to experience that. So you may notice a shift in 2, 3 days, so it could even be a week. The other thing that could happen is depending on the blocks and the nervous energy or how strongly you're holding on to it, then as you start to release, there's that purging. And the purging could be physical, could be emotional. Maybe you'll cry a lot and say, because that hurt, but you didn't allow yourself to grieve at that time, to really release the emotions that it brought in you. So that may happen now as you break the blocks. And the physical purging could be, I mean, people have had upset stomachs or they felt very exhausted and they slept a lot. It's like actually like having surgery, but surgery on the energetic body. So you don't see it, but the symptoms and the resulting sort of symptoms are very similar because just like you would need some rest and relaxation after surgery to recover from it, to let your body recover, to let your energetic body recover, you may also need that. And then you may start craving certain foods, uh, you know, uh, because we need to ground ourselves. Now, how it works is like we're bringing in the divine energy that's working through us, but we need to ground ourselves too so we are not floaty. We're not, as the energy is working through us. So if you're feeling like that and the energy is working, you may crave um, the grounding foods like chocolate or potatoes, uh, or you may crave like salty foods, so it really depends. Nothing is right or wrong in this situation. It is unique to each individual, but it does help you release the anxiety. And once the anxiety is released, the resulting stress is eased. And with that, getting overwhelmed, that part is released also. So it's like works in sequence, so that's how energy healing can help.
Yes, that answered all of the questions. Thank you, Pam. There's one thing I saw over the last few days. I was watching a video about Reiki, and I think this may be relevant to energy healing as well. You can speak on this. A question was mentioned about when energy healing is happening, the healing that takes place, the person who is doing it, such as you, the energy healer, or you are more acting as a facilitator, you are not an actual healer. So the person was trying to make a distinction between she is a Reiki teacher or Reiki practitioner.
Master.
She does not actually heal anyone. She's a facilitator through which the healing happens. Is this the same with energy healing in the modality that you do?
In every modality in energy healing, that would be the case because, as we are saying, the energy flows through us. And if there are blocks, then it doesn't flow and causes problems. So, and I've said in a lot of the questions that we asked, that it depends on how open the person is to receiving it, how willing they are to participate and do the work. So, yes, that's very true because I'm just a facilitator. I am bringing in the divine energy. I cannot use my energy because it's not enough. I'll burn out, you see? So, okay, think of it this way. There's a subdivision, there are maybe 100 houses in that subdivision, and there's electricity in each house. Now, that electricity in each house, it powers just the one house. The main electricity comes from the power station where it can has the larger capacity to handle that load. If I try to put that load in my house and distribute to the 100 houses, it'll burn out because I don't have that capacity. So when I bring in the divine energy, it is at this point as an energy facilitator, energy healer, I have done the work and expanded my capacity to handle the amount of energy that is needed for the healing. So when I bring it down and the energy is passed on to the client, then that's another reason people will either sleep through it or will have the purging because with the blocks, they are not able to handle the load. And they'll feel it. Sometimes they may get headaches because the energy gets trapped in our body. So there are exercises that you can do. Physical movement is important. And then you can kind of shake the energy out of your body if you're getting those symptoms. And there are things you can do, like take a salt bath to release that energy from your body. But to answer your question, yes, um, I would say most, I would even say all energy healings modalities, um, the healer is just a facilitator because they're bringing the energy and they're sharing it with you. But now, if you're not open to receiving, you won't benefit from it. We had several people initially in this course that started with me, but then dropped out because they were so overwhelmed with what was going on in their life that they didn't have time or they didn't devote enough time to this. And they weren't able to at that time because they were feeling so sort of just on autopilot with everything goes that was going on with their lives, with their jobs, with their family situations, or with their children, or with their health, or whatever it was, and they were not ready to work on themselves and give themselves the time because they were feeling tired and sleepy when they needed to be at work. So they had signed on initially thinking, oh, it's a light work, they'll do the healing, I'll be healed and fine. But when they realized how deep the work was, they kind of backed off for the time being. A lot of them, they joined the next class because now they understand a little bit, but they're not ready to deal with it. So they give themselves that time and they join the next class. So it is, yeah, definitely dependent on the person receiving the healing and allowing themselves to kind of not suppress something again because it comes up and it's painful. Because if you're doing it, you're not benefiting. I mean, you're not doing yourself a favor by suppressing it again because that's what you've been doing for a long time, and which is causing all these problems and anxieties and playing that reel in the background to keep you going in that one place. Um, so it is important that you understand how it works, that it's not something like a doctor prescribing a pill, you take the pill and you're done. No, you have to take certain actions. You have to understand where the blocks are. I can kind of, um, help with that, identifying the blocks based on my experience, but the energy flow and the workings of the energy healing just makes me the facilitator and the conduit that's, transferring the energy to you to do the healing. And that's why we call on higher power and God, whoever you believe in, whoever you identify with. Like the Hindus will, identify with the Hindu gods. Christians will identify with Jesus, whatever. Whoever you identify with, whoever you believe in, they all work because that's what you are aligned with. You find yourself aligned with. And then we bring in the energy and facilitates like, okay, yeah, basically just work through that.
That's wonderful. I have one last question before we close up for the day, and that is actually, I have two questions. The first one is, and I think I know this answer already. Do the results differ depending on what you identify as for the higher power? That's the first question. And the second question is, what happens if you do not do anything with your trauma? If you continue to collect trauma throughout your life and you don't go through any type of um, shedding, whether it be therapy or energy healing or any kind of, it can even, just be simple as journaling or whatever. If you continue to collect trauma throughout your life and you never shed it, what happens to you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the first question?
The first question was, is there a difference in the results based on who you identify with as the divine or the higher power?
No, there's no difference. It's like, you know, you can come to me for healing, you can go to somebody else for healing. It depends on how they work with you, but as far as the divine energy is concerned, they're all, it's the same energy. It's the same energy that's flowing through. Um, but, you know, unfortunately, like we see, there are some teachers, aka gurus. Some of them are genuine, and some of them are working more from the egos. So the divine energy never fails. the conduit may not be the right one. You know, if I come with the thing that, oh, I'm a healer and I can heal anybody. No, I cannot heal anybody. It depends on a lot of different factors. But as far as sort of channeling the divine energy and bringing that to heal the thing, that doesn't shift, that doesn't change because beyond the human, this is why we need to put our mind, our ego, which is very important for us to navigate in this world as human beings, but it is limited. Once we understand that, it's we best put it in the passenger seat and let the divine be in the driver's seat because they can see, they have a larger perspective, they have, sort of a more bird's eye view. It's like, walking in a jungle, you're seeing trees and trunks and you're lost. But if you go a little higher and you have that overview, you can see the entire jungle. So that's the difference between the human and the divine. So the divine never fails. The divine energy will always work. But the healer that you find, the conduit that you find, the facilitator that you find and work with, that can make a difference because if I'm not channeling that energy in full, or I am conveying something to the effect that I am the one doing the healing, or that I'm greater than you for some reason because I can do the healing, you've lost the this thing connection. So you have to differentiate and you have to make sure that the person you're working with is not give you the impression that they are doing the work. It's like, there are owners of the company and there are the CEOs. CEOs serve a purpose, they have a job, they oversee everything, the operations. But if they present themselves as the owner of the company, then there's problems. You see? So yes, the divine definitely never fails. And I mean, we're in this world, there's so many different countries. Each country works fine. There are good people, there are bad people, there are good things in every country, there are bad things in every country. So there's that. If you're looking for perfection, we'll never find it. But you have to work in spite of the imperfections, you know. So that's the first question. And the second one is like if you continue to build the trauma, it's like you'll get to a point where the straw will finally break the camel's back. It's not the one straw, but it's what has built up. And this is why, like, some people are so overwhelmed and say, why does everything keep going wrong for me? And I, we each of us in our human experience, we experience that. Some to a greater degree, some who have learned that okay, you need to shed that. And I think I would like to share a story. Energetically, we need to empty ourselves. So I don't know if I shared in this container, but there's there was a man. He worked with this one gentleman. So one day the other gentleman needed some tools. So the first one said, "Why don't you come to my house and I'll give you the tools." So he noticed that when they went there, and both of them were very tired after a hard day's work. So as they went in, uh, the man whose house they were going to, he paused at the door at the entrance and said something, took off his coat, took off his coat and hung it on the hook outside, and then went in and, he was interacting with his family. He was laughing with the kids. He was like, he had renewed energy. So the next day, his coworker asked him, "How do you do that?" So he says, "I don't take my problems inside my house. I leave them at the door at the end of the day." So that is like on an energetic level, When we are overwhelmed at night, just empty yourself. And you can say a prayer, you empty yourself uh, mentally, emotionally, physically of all of the day's energies and all of the day's events and return them to God with gratitude and love. God or whoever you believe in, I mean, whatever you believe in, just return them. So you have emptied yourself and you will start to notice a difference because this is why, also um, there are two things that are very important in context with this. Uh, when you hear of somebody committing suicide, you wonder like why. I mean, they seemed fine, but they may be covering up because they're taking and taking and taking and taking in from everybody and not releasing it. They get to a point that they're so full that they can't take it anymore and they want to end it all and they want to end their pain. That is one reason. The other thing is that you give emotionally to so many people. You know, every time everybody's asking you for favors and you're giving, 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 and you feel so empty inside, that you don't want to continue. So we need to find a balance. Things are going to keep happening. It's like, you can't, like taking a shower is not a one and done thing. You have to take a shower every day to stay clean. So similarly, you need to empty yourself out and return it to God who can handle it all. Return it to higher power, whoever you believe in, they can handle it all and they can take it off your plate. There are invisible friends, there are angels, guardian angels, archangels, and you know, all that there are different beings who are there to help us. And it is important that we empty ourselves because, okay, what happens is you have this trauma, you've not dealt with it. You start triggering, getting triggered, and uh, reacting. Then it continues and it gets worse and worse because you're not getting the results. Now, there's a part of you that wants a certain thing, but you haven't emptied yourself. And you have to kind of let that, if for example, in your home, you've got it's stuff, so much stuff in the house, whether you're using it or not, because you don't want to give it away or you don't want to deal with it or you don't want to look at it, it's just sitting in the corner. Over time, it's going to start molding or, disintegrating and just falling apart. Similarly, in our bodies, our mental, physical, emotional, energetic bodies, if we hold on to stuff, that'll start translating to physical symptoms because it's not cleared out. So it is very important to find some release. And this is why, like, people who pray, they may not understand what they're doing, but if they're praying, they're still calling on a higher power, to release that. Um, but then if you're just doing it as an exercise, oh, because so and so prayed and they're always happy. So you start praying, but you're not really connecting. It doesn't work for you like that works for the other person. You see? So, yes, definitely it's very important to clear the trauma. And as human beings, we kind of don't want to accept that there's anything, um, I wouldn't say anything wrong with us. It's just that, because we're feeling overwhelmed, we are so busy keeping that facade for society. We never look inside. We are always looking for validation outside. But what happens is, and then, we're so busy pointing fingers at others that we don't realize that three of those are pointing back at us. you see. So with all of that, just understand. And whenever you're ready, I mean, everybody is ready at a different time. Um, and sometimes, like, okay, we had a friend, he was an alcoholic and he would drink and he used to get violent. He was a very nice person, but he would get violent, whatever his traumas were. And he could never quit drinking, he said. But one time he had a heart issue and a mild heart attack. When he was in the hospital, the doctor told him that he's got to quit drinking. Now, the choice was between living and dying. You see, it was a strong enough motivator for him to quit drinking. He totally changed. And there are others who say, oh, no, no, it doesn't matter. They keep drinking and they die. But then it's too late. So each one learns at their own pace. Each one learns in their own way. You can't force it on anyone. You can just make suggestions. You can just tell them. And whoever is ready to make that change will make that change. And it depends on the incentives. For example, we had a friend, he and his wife, they were both, he was an orphan. And so, like, from his teens, he had grown up in an orphanage because when his parents died, none of the rest of the family wanted to take him in. Um, and his wife, her parents had died, and she was the oldest. So she had taken care of her siblings and put them through school and college and whatever. So eventually, they were in their mid 30s, 40s, in kind of in the middle age. They got married, but by then they decided not to have any children, but they loved children. So they adopted a little girl. And one day, I mean, the gentleman used to smoke like maybe 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And one day they were sitting there, and the little girl was sitting in his lap. And, when he started to smoke, and she said, ooh, and he says, why, you don't like that? He says, no. She says, I don't like that. He threw away the cigarette and he never smoked again. From 2 packs to no cigarettes a day. Because to them, children were so important. Having their life experiences that he didn't want to displease this child. So it depends on the incentive, how strong they are. And there are others who can try Nicorette or whatever, and they can't seem to quit and they keep going back to it because they haven't hit that mark where it has become very sort of important for them to do that. So similarly with energy healing, people who will connect with it are the ones who are ready to make the change, not necessarily who, because I talk to them or somebody else talks to them. But when they're ready for it and they open themselves to it, the information will come their way
Yes.
and, they'll be ready for it.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pam. I had a wonderful time learning about energy healing once again with you. And I look forward to our next conversation. So, again, thank you so much. And I'll see you
Thank
next
you,
time.
Amira.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Amira. Lovely.
Bye.